Welcome to the precious pattern pottery pickup. We are today again at Lyme Regis on the Jurassic coast. We're here for a competition along the beach here, which I've visited before with you. There is a Victorian and early 20th century landfill that's spilled out onto the beach, and we're going to be picking over that today for one particular kind of thing. So prepare to pick up, pluck pieces of pretty porcelain, painstakingly persevere and pinpoint the preeminent, prodigious, predominant pile of parts of plush plates, posh pots and perfectly pulchritudinous porringers. The person possessing the prolific plenitude of pattern pottery pieces prevails as prize winner. Proceed promptly. It's that bit along there where you can see a sort of dark blob on the beach there. So that's why we're here today. So you may be inclined to wonder, why is there such a preponderance of man-made junk on the beach? I think that might be a piece of, yeah, it's a little piece of porcelain, but I'm not going to take it, it's plain. Why is there such a lot of junk on the beach, and why was there a landfill? Who would make a landfill on the beach like this? And the answer to that is that it wasn't on the beach, it was up on those cliffs. We'll switch to a different view now so you can see, but when they actually filled this landfill up, it was on top of a cliff. It was on a headland. And so over about 100 years, the water has eroded the cliffs back, undercut the landfill, and then the landfill that was on top of the cliffs has just slumped down into the sea. In that landfill was mostly sort of Victorian and early 20th century refuse, so not plastic, but lots of pieces of broken china, glassware, discarded bits of metalwork, bottles, lots and lots of coal dust from domestic fires. And the coal dust has formed a kind of stinky black cement, which does make the beachcombing quite unpleasant. For that reason we ate our pasties before we came down here and got our hands dirty. So this being one of our good-natured spousal competitions, we are gonna see who can pick up the largest amount of little fragments of broken pottery. Ideally mostly patterned pottery, so having colours or patterns or something like that on it, but anything that looks nice really. And we will split this into two competitions actually, so we'll do this by weight and we'll do it by count as well. I am going to take this nodule home with me. I found a nodule there with a curiously serrated line in it. I think if we split that open we'll find there's a shell in there, maybe an ammonite, maybe a bivalve of some sort. Now there are no hard and fast rules today as to what constitutes a qualifying piece of pottery. I'm not going to pick up anything that's plain white, I think, but I will pick up coloured bits. The criteria for me, well, the criteria for the competition is really anything that you think is nice. So that gives us sufficient wiggle room in the rules to cater to our own tastes. I do find I have to turn over all these pieces of white pottery in case there's something pretty on the other side. There often isn't. This beach has obviously been picked over and over again by mudlarkers, beachcombers, people down here looking for fossils and for historic finds, you know, pieces of knickknacks that people have thrown away. But there's a lot of this kind of scrap metal stuff happening here, and pieces of buildings. Pieces of the cliff are still falling down. That's where the landfill was, up on that ledge of the cliff, which obviously was originally the top of the cliff, but now it's slumping and falling down. And this stuff here, this grey goo, is a mixture of the local Kimmeridge clays, but also all of the kind of coal dust that would have been the main component of domestic refuse disposal in Victorian and early 20th century times. But yeah, lots and lots of, a bit of an old fire grate down there by the look of it. Piece of some machinery of some sort. I'm not going to go and rummage in this really dirty, claggy bit up here, but we'll have a wander around on the sticky top here. Welly boots are the order of the day today. Yeah, so look, there's a bit of cliff just crumbling away there. We've had some quite heavy rain recently, so that softens these cliffs and causes them to crumble and eventually fall in the sea. I've got something down here which might not be a qualifying find for today's competition, but I think it's interesting enough that I want to dig it out and have a look. Ooh, it's a little paste pot. I think we'll clean that up. It's got a really coppery sheen on the top here, but that's just where the glass has been eroded. But yes, a little fish paste pot or something like that. So yeah, I'll have that, but that's not part of my haul today. Catch up with Jenny. Jenny's got one that says, looks like that was the end of the word hedgerow, I would say. You reckon?
Yeah, it could be, yes.
So maybe that was like a hedgerow jam pot or something like that?
Possibly. Oh.
Oh, it's double.
It's got that
Pattern on both sides. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's going to be the branding on the back of a tile then, isn't it? So that's the tile.
And that
hedgerow was presumably the name of the design. Yeah. Well, you seem to be doing quite well there, Jenny. There's a piece of something with, oh, I don't know what that is. A piece of tile, maybe heavy tile. Right, I'm heading this way because I'm actually behind Jenny at the moment. Jenny's been doing pretty well. I thought she was falling behind, but she's not. Well, that counts. That's a piece of a handle from something. Not going to collect glass today. There is some quite interesting glass down here, but it's not the kind of sea glass where it's all worn down and smooth. It's still quite jagged, so we won't be collecting that. And I'm trying not to get too distracted by fossils, but there's a ammonite. That's wedged in place. Don't know what that is. It's still fixed to that big plate on the back there, but that's not what we're here for today. So I'm going to leave that for somebody else to discover. Well, that is patterned, but I would say the pattern there is natural. That's a bit of crazing, but I'm going to call it. I think I like it enough to take it home. Not that piece though. In a minute, I think we'll switch over and see what Jenny's finding. So I'll let Jenny take the camera. That's a piece of melted glass. Because we used to burn the landfills. That's a piece of melted glass. Oh. I found this little bit of metal. I think that's the handle of like a scalpel or something.
Oh, that's like
I'm just using it for digging around. bottom bit, but I think that doesn't count. That's a piece of melted glass and ceramic. That's, whilst it's interesting, I don't think that really counts. There is quite a lot of interest. There's something with a bit of interesting texture to it. We'll have that. Oh yeah. Okay, so got something with writing on it. And it says something genuine unless bearing William PH Art. Well, don't know. We might be able to find out what that originally said. Well, that's got a nice texture to it. I think that counts. This little spot here seems pretty productive, so I'm going to hang around here, I think. There is a lot of just plain white. I'm having that though. The old electrical insulator, I don't think that really counts. I wouldn't call that pretty, although I do like them. Right, well, my back is starting to tell me that it's had enough of bending over to pick things up now, so I think we might call it a day and head for home and have the weigh in. Who do you think might have won? There's always one more piece to pick up though. A little bit of willow pattern there by the look of it. And that piece of textured pottery. That is very lovely. So let's have a look. I think Jenny might beat me on the way in, but there is also the count. So you can still see the top layer of the landfill up there at the top of the cliffs. All that brown staining is mostly rust. Rusty bits of iron spilling out here onto the beach. Oops. There again, it's a rather lovely insulator, but there's no chance of taking that home as it's still attached to the wire that it was part of. Perhaps I'll come back here another day with some bolt cutters and we might have that if it's still there. Okay, it is the time of reckoning, so I should have done that first. Okay, right, that's zeroed. Would you like to put yours on there, Jenny? So Jenny's got 455 grams.
Yeah, 455.
455. I've got 1,087. I've got a kilo of pottery pieces. Right, but then I've got big pieces in here, so it still could be, Jenny could win on the count still. So we now need to sit down and count these, so back in a moment. Okay, right, I have 119 pieces. Jenny?
73.
So, sorry Jenny, I thrashed you on both counts today.
Oh.
Never mind, better luck next time. But let's now just sift through, and I want you to pick out your 3 favourite bits out of the pottery that you found. I'll pick out my 3 favourite bits, and we'll just have a close look at them. And then later on in the video, what we'll do is we'll wash all of this up. We'll put it all in one bucket, wash it, scrub it, get it nice and clean, and we'll close the video out with some shots of the best pieces. I don't know how much of this you found. I found quite a bit of willow pattern.
A few little bits.
Yeah, I found a fair few bits. Tempting to imagine you might be able to assemble them back into something, but it's very unlikely. I think that's the lid of a pan yam pickle jar. It says pan on it. Right, you picked your favourites, yeah?
I suppose that's the most spectacular.
So,
but I've got some here with little tiny flowers on.
oh, right, yeah. Okay, we'll get a close shot of those in just a moment. Yeah, I do think that one's lovely actually. That's like a piece of oh, what's it called? That stuff that looks like vegetables. You know, it looks like cabbages, and I can't remember what it's called. When I remember, I will put that on the screen. Yeah. So, 3 favourite pieces. Have you got enough to have 3 favourite pieces out there? I think that's quite nice actually, with a little circle design.
I've got some of these who've got, look, that's got a tree on it.
Okay, let's just take them out so I can take photographs of them closer. Okay, that one.
That one.
That's good, yeah.
And I think probably that one, although it doesn't show very much.
Yeah.
It's got.
Oh yeah.
That one there.
That looks like it. Do you know what? That looks like it might have been part of a nursery set or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like a porringer or something. Okay, well my favourite is this one because it's got a kind of fairly complete little flower design on it. There's this one which is just checked, but actually we can't really see very well in here. It's daylight, it's purple, so it's best colour. And this, which is just quite a bold design, I think. I quite like that.
See, that one's got flowers on it.
Yes. There's some really nice textured pieces as well, actually. So that one's got the kind of geometric textured design on it. That one's got like a scalloped design, on it, like a cockle shell texture.
Oh, yeah, I could put them like that.
Oh, actually, no, there might be pieces of the same thing. Not quite. Well, they might be. There might still be pieces of the same thing, but just from different places.
Yes,
So it's very unlikely because everything on that beach was very tumbled and jumbled. But I suppose it's possible. I found quite a few pieces of this as well. This is like almost like a glassy ceramic of some sort with stripes on it. I found a few chunks of that. Right, okay, well, anyway, we'll come back when this is all washed up and we'll have a closer look at some of the better bits. Okay, we've agreed that now we've done the weigh-in and the count-up, there ain't a lot of point in keeping this separate, so my lot's going to go in and Jen's lot's going to go in. So that's just water with a bit of washing up liquid. We're going to leave that to soak overnight and then we'll give it a little scrub up and let it dry out, and we'll just enjoy the most beautiful pieces when that's all cleaned up. Meanwhile, however, there are a couple more finds to talk about. There's this, which is a nodule with a fossil inside. So when I crack that open along that line there, I think we're going to find there's a fossil stuck in the middle there. However, I'm not going to do that in this video because I'm not altogether sure what's the best approach for that. I think probably I need to go in from that side where the fossil's not so exposed and maybe try and crack it from there rather than crack it from here and damage the fossil. But anyway, got to think about that. So that's going to turn up in a random stuff episode at some point. So that's not happening right now. This though is, so this is a little paste pot, like a little pot of shrimp paste or something it would have been. Early 20th century probably, I think. It's very, very caked with mud and it's full of mud. So I should have probably done this at the beach, but I didn't have time. I'm going to get outside and just dig out that mud with this, which is that's the handle of a surgical scalpel, I think, that I found on the beach. I'm just going to scoop out that mud and put it on the garden, and then we'll come back and give this a proper wash, and hopefully we'll better appreciate it. We might have to wait until daylight tomorrow to really appreciate the iridescence of this glass. Okay, now you might be wondering why I'm not just doing this straight in the sink. I'm hoping that will become fairly obvious. All this silt and mud here really probably didn't ought to go down the sink. So the notion is I'm going to catch all of this and then tip it away in the garden, because all of this silt and mud and stuff would block my sink. I don't fancy calling a plumber out. Let's get the worst of it off. And I'll tip this away and we'll give it another rinse. It's coming up quite nicely actually. I think there might be some writing on the bottom. So there we go. It's a little paste jar from shrimp paste or crab paste or salmon paste or something like that. I don't think it's especially old because it's got some embossing on the bottom there. I'll see if I can read that. But it's got this really weird coppery iridescence there where it's been exposed to all sorts of different things. It's almost like it's been copper plated, but it's obviously not. And one thing I have just noticed on this is that actually it's not completely symmetrical. It's got a bit of a sag in the rim. Now I'm wondering if it's been heated, because they did used to light fires on top of these landfills to pack it all down, because everything that went in there was a mixture of domestic waste, probably like broken old crates and things like that as well. And so they used to light fires on top of it to pack it all down and conserve space in the landfill. And so a lot of the glass that we find in these landfills is actually a bit melted. And so it's possible that this has been just exposed to enough heat to distort the rim. It's, yeah, just dips down a little bit here. You probably won't be able to see it here, but maybe when I put it on a turntable or something. Well, that could just be an imperfection in the way the jar has been made. Anyway, I think I've managed to get all the scale off the bottom. There is some writing on there. So there we go. Yes, no great age to that. All it says on the bottom there is made in England, and there's a little number 2, little fish paste jar. Quite a nice little jar though. Not sure what I'll use it for. So I said I wasn't going to do anything with this fossil nodule in this video, but I've changed my mind. We're going to try something that I've been recommended for splitting fossils before. I'm going to soak this in water overnight, so that's about 12 hours, and then I'm going to put it in the freezer for 24 hours. But this is limestone, so hopefully the water that's kind of soaks in there will freeze, expand, and split that apart. That's the theory. I've heard that recommended sometimes. We'll see if it works. It might destroy the fossil, but it's an interesting experiment, so let's give it a go. Okay, it is the next morning, so that goes in there. I'll tie that up, and then that goes in there. Well, down there actually. So we'll leave that there for 24 hours, and we'll see what happens. Okay, 24 hours have passed. This fossil-bearing rock has been in the freezer all that time. Well, it hasn't split in half yet, but I'm just going to thaw it in some warm water. And we'll see what happens. Now, of course, this rock has been outdoors all the time, but I don't think it's necessarily been exposed to freeze and thaw cycles, because up until comparatively recently, this was probably inside the cliff. So it hasn't been out there on the beach for years and years. It's probably only tumbled out of the cliff in the last month or so. And we haven't had any hard frosts, so I don't know. Anyway, there's no sign of anything having happened there really with it freezing. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I will soak it again and I'll freeze it again. And I'll repeat this for a week or so. I'll give it thaw cycles, freeze cycles, and I'll repeat it for about 6 or 7 times, something like that. And we'll see if that makes any difference. We'll see. Nothing's coming off of it, really. Anyway, so that's not going to be in this video now. We're not going to crack this open in this video, but this will turn up at some point in a random stuff video and we'll get it open. So that's the end of the cleanup. I've scrubbed these and we're just going to lay them out to dry like that. I picked out all the bits that were just white or plain so that we don't clutter up the tray. Then I'll follow some close-ups of this beautiful pottery. So thanks for joining us at the precious pottery pickup. I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you again soon.